we are going to talk to Benji from my own state of Aloysius Llamas. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Hey there, Benji. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I don't think I've ever spoke to y'all before. So I was gonna go ahead and talk about the how God's patience is gone, pretty much, and also the indoctrination thing. But I'm pretty sure y'all would just agree with me on that.
Well, yeah. So the notes say that you're saying that indoctrination is bad at all levels. I'm kind of curious what you mean at all levels, like what that might specify. But if you want to talk about how God's patience is run up, we could start there.
Well, I mean, I was gonna. I guess I could do both. So the indoctrination thing, like everything from churches cherry picking what they want to teach, because families go to church and the ones that are religious. I mean, you're from Alabama, so you understand this. I go to church. I've been to several different denominations throughout the decades. I'm pretty old. I even speak Latin, and so I talk about the Bible to people. I teach them about the books that they banned or burned, got rid of, whatever. A lot of people don't count them as canon, but then I explain that if you throw out half a story, you can't say the other half is all there is. You can't look at half a picture and say it's the whole thing. And so the indoctrination problems, one of the things I have a problem with is them cherry picking and doing special pleading and, all those fallacies and crap that they tend to do. I do go to church. I am considered a theist because I believe in God, but I'm a Gnostic. And there's not really any Gnostics left, to be honest. I'm also a spiritualist, which I didn't realize that's what that was, but basically believing in limbo, spirits, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, Benji, could you explain what you mean by Gnostic? Because that can mean a couple of different things. What do you mean by Gnostic?
Yeah, so God's both good and evil. The Trinity was added in the 1500s by the Roman Catholic Church, right? Well, probably a little earlier than that. After the 1500s was Dark Ages. The Catholic Church made up the Trinity. It was not part of the original Gospels. They added that in later. And earlier, when I was talking to people, I explained that God and Jesus cannot be the same person because God is wrathful and a jealous God, and that's actually when they say God's name is jealous, the actual text to that was God's name is the jealous one because God is jealous. That's why the first thing he says is, "Don't believe in any other gods but me." But then I try to teach people stuff about the actual Bible, the history of it, and all that stuff, and people get mad because they want.
Benji, so look, it may very well be the case that you don't believe in traditional Christian doctrine like the Trinity or like the the unity of Jesus and the Father and so on. You may very well not believe in any of that, but you do still believe in God. And so I guess the real question is why?
Just knowledge that was given to me, life experiences, that kind of thing. Also, I've read.
Hold on, Benji. Sorry. What knowledge was given to you?
Well, just history and just different stuff. I mean, Book of Enoch, Book of Mary, Book of Paul. A lot of the hidden Gospels, the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was the Old Testament. Epic Gilgamesh, just a lot.
So Benji, I'm just kind of curious, like the first few books that you mentioned there, as far as like Christian books go and stuff. I don't, those come much, much later, like in history. I do want to correct one thing. The Trinity wasn't added at one particular point. It developed over a long period of time, but the first time that it was formally defined was in the First Council of Nicaea in 325 AD.
Right, there was a group of people that decided what to keep and what to throw out. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
The leaders of the Catholics.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is that the books that you mentioned at the very beginning of your list of books that contain the knowledge that you're talking about, those are known like fabrications that occurred much later after the fact. Like those things don't represent actual history or any kind of actual knowledge that we know of. Those are just fabrications written by people meant to push some kind of theological narrative about it. So I guess I'm going to go back to asking you, like, what knowledge was given to you, and how did you receive that knowledge? Did you just read these books, or did God like directly talk to you and tell you that these books are valid and relate something? How did you get it, and how do you know that it's accurate?
But I mean, it kind of just flooded my head, my mind. So, I mean, in a sense, God gave me the knowledge, but also just to point out one thing, technically I could say that the Bible is a copy or a fabrication of a copy, because the flood story was passed on eons before the Bible was ever even written. Before Genesis, you had the Epic of Gilgamesh, and before that you had stories in Samaria and the sorry, my dog's still barking. Sumerian text, Anaki text, and a bunch of other ones.
So, Benji, you're giving us a great reason.
It's a polytheist. There was not monotheist.
Benji, you're giving us a great reason to be skeptical of all of the religious texts, right? I mean, if it's the case that these religious texts are not describing something that actually happened, but are rather stealing stories from something earlier, why should we trust any of it? I mean, like, perhaps you might say that we could trust the earliest case of these, but still, these are better understood as mythology, as folklore. What's the reason for believing these texts represent what's true about the world?
Well, I mean, a lot of mythology was based on true events, but they were, later blown out of proportion.
How do you know that?
I have a strong person that was the son of somebody that lived on a mountain, Hera, which Hercules is not Heracles, meant son of Hera, and then it was translated to Hercules, and then you have the Trailblazers and all of that other stuff. And then also, I don't know if people realize this either, but it wasn't three wise men in the beginning that went to see Jesus. There was way more than that. And actually, it doesn't directly give a number either, I don't believe.
No, I mean, so the gospel stories are pretty specific about who comes and sees it, and I mean, I do agree that only one of the stories has wise men coming, and then in another story it's shepherds. So I mean, there is a difference there. But as far as what you're talking about, where are you deriving that information from? Are you deriving it from later documents?
Some of it was tablets that they chiseled on at the time that was recovered. Other stuff was papaya, and then other stuff was stuff that they found later.
What tablets?
Of all tree.
And papaya is a fruit.
I don't know what the hell papaya is, but that's.
You're thinking of papyrus.
Well, I'm talking about the papyrus paper that they used to. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, but I'm kind of curious as to what tablets are being chiseled on that's recording this information. As my recollection is that there's many papyrus pieces, like there's a lot of manuscripts written on papyrus that we have fragments of, but I can't think of any tablets that record these things. What tablets are you talking about?
Well, I mean, there was houses that they made out of basically clay, stone and clay, and during that time, and they essentially they lived in kind of like caves, but it was more like a square house that they built out of brick and limestone and
So not caves, houses made out of
and they
brick.
would record stuff on the walls well, that's what I mean, but they would record stuff on the walls similar to what Egyptians did, with the hieroglyphics and all of that stuff.
Right. Okay. I get that, but you're not telling me, like, typically these tablets, they have names associated with them so that people can identify which tablet you're talking about here. Okay, like do you have any other information that could help us like verify this? Because, and I know I'm asking a question and then elaborating, but just to let you know, it's coming off to us as if you're just ad hoc stating that these things have been found and that they verify these things and that they are in fact trustworthy. But what we're trying to do is actually assess the information so that we can know whether or not it actually is trustworthy information, which I'm guessing it's not. So again, I'm going to ask, what specific like tablets or what specific carvings are you talking about?
Well, there was, I forget the exact number, but there was a whole lot of tablets that they did during that time that had the Hebrewic laws on them. You had the Ten Commandments, but you also had a bunch more that had social laws, legality laws, government, a bunch of other things. At the same time, and so a lot of those are, I believe, still around. I think.
So I'll help you out here. So probably the earliest record that there is of any of the things that you were referring to is probably the Epic of Gilgamesh. There is a stone tablet, I suppose it was a clay tablet.
Yeah,
that has parts of the Epic of Gilgamesh inscribed on it in Akkadian, and that dates back 4,000 years or perhaps 3,500 years or something like that. That certainly exists. But sure, we can say that the story existed. How do we know that the event actually happened?
Well, I mean, you would have to basically, I mean, right now there's not really a way to look at find a way to see all the events that took place in a particular point in time. So you have to just go off what was recorded at the time. And you're right, by the way, it was clay, not stone. But the Epic of Gilgamesh was actually written before Genesis, which they got a lot of stuff in Genesis wrong. I know a lot of Christians disagree. But that's why science and religion can never be compatible, and it was never compatible back then either. But
so Benji, right? Well, so Benji, right? Benji, pivoting off of that point, you say that religion and science are mutually exclusive, or they're toxic towards one another, they can't merge or whatever. So with you being religious, does that mean that you reject like a lot of scientific discoveries or a lot of scientific theories? Like is that a reasonable assumption?
Well, no. I mean, you can be scientific and still believe, but the way that people do that is they associate discoveries with God. So, for example, black holes or new stars or whatever. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that there's a damn dome over the earth. I mean, like the firmament. I mean, I'm not going to go that far with it, or sit here and be a new age creationist and be like, oh, well, the earth is only 4,000. No, that's just stupid. But what I would do is I would say, well, everything that is created or everything that does exist or has existed was created by God. I mean, that's what most people say. So therefore, anything that's discovered in the future, any technology that we come up with in the future is allowed by God. And so that way he still gets all the credit. I don't like the fact that people blame Lucifer for the bad stuff, because really he's just a scapegoat. But I mean, other than that, I mean, there's ways to get around the science and religion don't agree. You just have to be creative about it. Now, back in the day,
is that really Benji? Is that really truthful though? Like, Benji, I'm sorry. Hold on. Is that really truthful though? Like, if you have to be creative in order to work a scientifically minded worldview, into your view of the world, is that really all that truthful as far as like, you retaining your religious sort of, like, I guess my question is, how truthful is it to be creative to work science into your religious worldview?
Well, it's not like I'm painting the target around the arrow, if that's what you mean. I mean,
it kind of seems like you are
trying to include everything together instead of separating it. Well,
no, I disagree with your statement about that you're not painting the target around your arrow, because you've already shot your arrow and you said, well, this is where God is, and then you're drawing whatever, I guess, science around it, or however that analogy would work. You're definitely like cherry picking here, and I just don't see that as a very truthful, like, thing to do, or a good thing to do.
Well, no, I mean, I know the whole Bible like the back of my hand. I'm not cherry picking the Bible at all. I know the entire Bible. I know it like the back of my. I've read it hundreds of times. I know it like the back of my hand. But I would say,
no, I understand that. What I'm saying is that you're cherry picking science. Because I feel like if you adhere to a scientific worldview, you're gonna come. And I don't know, maybe Blitz would disagree with me on this, but I feel like if you're gonna adhere to a scientific worldview, at some point you've got to wrestle with that cognitive dissonance of working with a religious worldview, because the religious worldview, as you yourself stated, it can't be all that well merged with a scientific worldview. So it just seems like at some point you have to be dishonest with yourself.
Well, it can. Well, no, it can. I mean, angels and everything are in a different realm. You can explain that by multiverse or different frequencies.
Oh, no. Don't do this to me.
The photons and stuff that work into existence and pop in and out of existence. I mean, there's different ways to work around that. Also,
do you recognize that as ad hoc, though? But Benji, do you recognize that as being ad hoc? Like, you're just stating God. Like, from what I've heard from you so far, Benji, is that you're ad hoc stating that God is responsible for all these things, instead of actually providing any kind of real evidence to ground your statements in your conclusion that God is responsible. You're just saying that God is responsible.
Do you want me to form a sound argument here to try to prove the point? I mean,
that would be lovely.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and go to the scientific method, but I mean, I could go ahead in 5 seconds and form a sound argument. I mean,
please.
So if everything that does exist and will exist exists in either natural or supernatural causes, then either God made it or he didn't make it. And then if God did make it, then he's responsible. If he didn't make it, something else would have to be responsible, because for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction to everything that's in motion. So all the stars, everything that's in motion, space and time and everything else, you could argue it started with the Big Bang, but there's other stuff that was before the Big Bang. There was energy. There was a state of mass that was close to equal to zero, to absolute zero, but it wasn't absolute zero. And some scientists, and not all of them, but some.
I'm gonna cry.
Infinite regression.
So look. So Benji,
you're going to die with the heat theory, which is everything.
Benji,
right, sorry, Benji, you're muted right now while Blitz addresses all of the wrong that you just said.
So yeah, I mean, this is like my 9/11, right? The argument that you were trying to make, is that everything that exists has either a supernatural or a natural cause. if it has a supernatural cause, then God created it, and hence God exists. If it has a natural cause, then that natural cause must therefore also have its own cause, and so on. And so it seems like you're saying that unless there is some sort of infinite regress, then God must exist. And even if we grant that argument as valid, which it perhaps is valid, I don't know if it's sound, you can't get away from an infinite regress. But even beyond then, there are models of the universe that have a beginning without any cause that started the beginning. It gets a little bit complicated, but there are ways to make sense of this from a scientific point of view. The whole notion of cause and effect is a 2,500-ish year old piece of metaphysics that we just haven't really used to do science for the last 150 years or so. We use equations now. We use what are called evolution equations, which are a type of differential equation. We just don't talk about causes and effects when we're really doing science properly.
All right, Benji, you're back.
Okay, so if you're talking about scientific equations, I know. If you're talking about the scientific, if you're talking about the scientific equations, like the formula equations and all of that stuff with the yield sign and everything, I'm still, I mean, I could use the yield sign stuff too. I'm pretty good at that too, and scientific method, or scientific methods, depending on which one I'm doing. But also, I still do the cause and effect thing. Everything must have a cause, otherwise it wouldn't be in motion or it wouldn't do what it's doing. And so the whole thing, one of the roots of science is discovery. And if you're not trying to discover everything and anything that is out there in the universe, then you're not going to know it because you're not trying to find the answers to it. So I do disagree with you. You did get the argument, by the way. You got the argument pretty good that I was trying to make. As far as infinite regression, there could be infinite regression, but there is no way to prove it yet. But if there is infinite regression, then that just means that there's always been something. Whether that something is a god or not would still be debatable. But there could be something else before the Big Bang that has always existed.
The typical definition of a god.
Trying to discover stuff or not.
So the typical definition of a god is some sort of mind that created the universe, and perhaps that has additional qualities like it's all powerful, all good. But just the bare bones definition is a mind that created the universe. And if the claim is that if you have an infinite regress, then it could still be God. Well, I guess maybe. But the point is the argument that you gave does not soundly and validly demonstrate the existence of a God. At best, it demonstrates a dichotomy that you either have an infinite regress or you don't. And at worst, it's not even valid. So all I would say is that these sort of like prime mover type arguments, they kind of fail when we begin to consider the way that things actually are in our universe, right? I mean, like this notion of what even is cause in a timeless universe. Well, that's a very, very hard question to answer. I don't think that your argument is capable of dealing with that.
Well, I have an answer for that. I have an answer for that. Time didn't exist in the beginning of the universe. In fact, time didn't exist 2,000 years ago because technically time started being measured. Well, whenever they started measuring the units of time is when the concept of time actually started. Now, you could also argue that, time is coexistent with space and all that crap. But to me, when they started measuring time is when it actually became a thing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did you just shit on Einstein's like theory of general relativity and special relativity? Did you just shit on all of that by saying all that crap? I'm just asking for a friend.
Well, Einstein was wrong on some of that, right?
On the relativity stuff, probably not.
Einstein was wrong on some of that. There is ways to go faster than light. And
how could
it was already proven.
No, Benji, we need to stop right now. I need you to explain to me how to go faster than light. I would love to know. I would love to hear this TED Talk.
To go faster than light, you would have to break the light barrier, speed of light equation. mc squared, basically, E equals MC squared. And to do that, you would have to use a lot of energy. And to do that, you would have to use basically either like nuclear fusion power or even like hyperdrives using protons and neutrons and infinite energy to travel through space. But then you get and there's a problem with that, because if you're able to travel at light speed,
they hit the third tower.
Get so far away from the Earth, you can't go back to the Earth because everything's moving away from you.
So Benji,
no, there's a point at which
Benji,
you go.
Benji, this is like, Benji, are you like trained in any particular field?
Away.
Sorry? Are you trained? Are you like trained in any field? Like, did you go to school for something, or did you get training in anything?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it was?
A few times. Why? Yeah.
For a comparison.
Well, let's see. I did. Yeah. So I did. What is that? Temple. Like the study of atoms and energy and energy fluctuation and the energy manipulation, that kind of thing. And then I also did
physics.
And
is that you have a degree in physics? You were trained in physics?
The time dilation. Yeah, time dilation.
So Benji, can I ask you just a really
using
can I ask you
matter?
Benji, can I ask you a really, really basic question? Could you explain to me what a tensor is?
The tensor is what you said?
No, tensor. Tensor.
Okay. Tensor. That's I mean, it's been a while, but I believe that's a unit of measurement, or it's a type of particle. But by the way,
it's neither of them.
The thing that I was going to say, the universe is working like a jet particle. So it's repeating itself over and over. So once it either would expand infinitely and we would die in the cold, or it would condense and then we would die from heat. It would go back into an infinite point of mass, Big Bang, and then it would do it again and repeat itself. And so it would have no beginning and it would have no end, and it would act as a density.
That's the Big Crunch model, right? Am I mistaken?
But anyway, that was what I was.
That's one variant. So Benji, here's what I would suggest as somebody whose field you are currently like taking an enormous dump on. Please don't. There are plenty of people who know a lot of physics. It doesn't seem like you're one of them. Rather than watching pop science YouTube videos or watching TikTok videos, I would suggest pick up like Peskin and Schroeder, pick up a Griffiths textbook, pick up Sean Carroll's Space-Time and Geometry if you want to learn about relativity. You could even pick up, a more advanced book like Wald, or you could pick up some, you could pick up Sakurai if you want to do more quantum stuff. There are a lot of books, but it seems like none of the things you were saying had anything to do with any of those things that are said in the books. So please, I guess, refrain from saying things about physics. It would make me feel a lot better.
Okay, Benji, we do need.
I can tell you what.
But Benji, we do need to move on to other callers, but we do have calls stacking up. So I'm gonna allow you to have the last word here. That might be a bad idea, but I'm gonna let you have the last word, and then we do need to move on. Okay.
Yeah, you can use gravity and mass to bend space-time and create a time temporal wormhole to travel through time. So I do actually know a lot about physics. And they actually did design hyperdrives for the past 20 or 30 years now. One of them.
Okay, I did not mute him. He just went.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, bye, Benji. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop you because that was, I should not allow them to have the last say. I feel like that was pretty good proof.